Hey guys, so after a long month of waiting, I finally got this package here from Sweden. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Alright, the box is open now. And here today I got some Mega Drive stuff. Start with the main event first. Got it's wrapped real tight. Yeah, let's start with the main event first, but I got a PAL Sega Mega Drive. For those who don't know, this is just the PAL version of the Sega Genesis. And it looks to be in decent shape. Has some scratches, of course, but that's to be expected. Now, for those who don't know, PAL is a TV format used in some areas of the world, most notably in Europe and Australia, although there's some Asian countries that use PAL as well. While here in the US we use NTSC, as well as areas such as Canada and Japan. So, for the most part, if you order a game or a console from Japan or Canada or whatever, it's gonna work here no problem. Now with PAL stuff, it's a different story. So the reason I got this is because I learned that I have a TV that supports PAL signals, so I wanted to try something on it. So I bought this Mega Drive, and we're gonna be just taking a look at the console and seeing if I could get it to work. We'll get into a bit more about the differences later on as we go through the contents of the box and such. Now, it also came with some games here. Here we have International Tour Tennis. Just a tennis game. This came with the console. NHL 95 and FIFA International Soccer, which, if you haven't noticed, these are all EA games, and EA use a different cartridge shape for their Sega Genesis games. I had this yellow tab. Yeah, it also came with this RF cable, which I won't be able to use because PAL RF signals are entirely different than NTSC. What I do like is the cable looks like it'll be easy to connect because it doesn't look like you have to screw it in. You just plug and play like this. Looks different than a US RF plug. So this is what a PAL RF port looks like, which you would see that on TVs themselves. Even if it did work, I wouldn't use it anyway because it's RF. RF sucks. Also came with an AC adapter, which right off the bat you can tell this is entirely different than the AC adapters we use in the US. The plug style is completely different. It's just two round points that go into the wall. I don't know exactly what countries use this type of plug, but I know UK, they use something different, I believe. But I think this is more for mainland Europe. They use this style of plug. I wouldn't be using this anyway. because obviously I can't plug that into my walls here. But you can, if you have a step-down transformer or something like that, you can use these kinds of plugs. But I was told by various people that I can probably just use a US Genesis plug, which that's what I'll be trying, so yeah. But I'm gonna be trying it at a different wall because I don't want anything to blow up where I usually plug my consoles in, but I highly doubt anything would really happen. This also came with 2 3-button controllers. See, take a look at it, one of them. They're a bit dirty, I gotta clean these, but yeah, this is what the PAL controller looks like, which it looks almost like the Japanese one, which I showed when I unboxed the Japanese console that I got a while back, except at the top it says Mega Drive control pad, and these are the first edition controllers because they have the red letters on the buttons, and they have really stiff D-pads. But yeah, I gotta clean that. Yeah, both of them, they have the same original style of D-pads, which they're not the best in my opinion. I like the ones that they use in the later 3-button controllers and 6-button controller, which they're more comfortable to play with. Alright, so we're just going to take a look real quick at the PAL console. Now, right off the bat, you can tell that it looks almost like the US Genesis Model 1. See, it has the smaller 16-bit text, but the part around the power LED is white instead of red, or purplish on some versions. See, it still has the volume jack. You plug headphones in. It has a white reset button like the US console. Power on and off. Here it says Mega Drive instead of saying Sega Genesis right here. And then it uses a US cartridge slot. And you can tell I have one of the earlier versions of the console because it says high definition graphics stereo sound, which means it'll have one of the better audio chipsets inside. And on the back, it looks almost like the US consoles, except here by the RF port, there's no channel selection. I'm not sure how PAL RF works, but yeah, I guess they don't have an option to choose between 2 different channels. And the AV port is the same, which I believe I can use the same AV cable that I use on my US or Japanese console. The cable itself would work, it's just the signal from the console will vary. And the AC adapter port, which I was told I could use a US port, looks almost the same. And the unused extension port in Europe, this, or Australia, this was never used either, just like how it was never used in the US. Later versions of the Model 1 Genesis or Mega Drive consoles took this port out because it was only used in Japan for a modem, which I spoke about in the Japanese Mega Drive video I did. Now let's look at the bottom. I don't know what TUV is. Here's Mega Drive PAL G, model number 1600-24. Rating DC 10 volts, 12 amp. Use Mega Drive AC adapter only. Serial number 120000438, made in China. I wonder what motherboard revision this has. And then here's the port for the Sega CD. I have a US Sega CD Model 2, so I don't think that's gonna work with this, but yeah. So, one of the reasons I wanted to get this also, just part of the collection, because the Sega Genesis is one of my favorite systems, and I am curious at owning at least one regional variant. But yeah, as I was saying, PAL is a different TV standard than what we use here, NTSC. Not only just the TV standard itself, there's actually some technical differences. For one, PAL TVs use a higher resolution of 576i as opposed to 480i like we use here or in Japan or something, which means you get a higher resolution picture, but at the cost of one thing that most PAL gamers at this point know about: slower gameplay, because the system runs at 50 Hz instead of 60 like we use here in other NTSC regions. What this means is that games run 17% slower approximately. We're going to be taking a look at that. Some games were optimized or developed in Europe will run at their intended speed on a PAL console, but for a majority of the games, since they were developed either here or in Japan or another NTSC region, they're going to run slower unless the developers actually cared enough to edit the game code and fix things. For one, the gameplay will be slower, music in some cases will be slower, and for the most part, this type of thing happened on most game consoles up until around the 6th gen, the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and Dreamcast era, because by that point, more TVs in PAL countries started to have 60 Hz options. It was becoming pointless to make things 50 Hz. Remember I said that PAL has a higher resolution. That also means that games in 50 Hz will run with borders at the top and bottom of the screen, making it look letterboxed, because most games were coded at 480 as opposed to, or more accurately, 240 as opposed to 288 or 576. So yeah, every game on a PAL console tends to look squashed, which we'll be looking at that if it works on this TV that I'm going to be using. Alright, and real quick, I'm just going to do a comparison of all three versions. The Japanese VA0 motherboard revision, the North American VA6 last I checked, that's why it has TMSS, and the PAL, I would assume VA4. All of these are basically shell equivalents, as they all have some sort of high definition graphics labeling on it. AV Intelligent Terminal, high grade multi-purpose use, high definition graphics, and high definition graphics stereo sound. I'm not going to talk much about these two since I already did a comparison of them in the Japanese Mega Drive unboxing video, but I will talk about this one a bit. See, the Mega Drive logo is different. This, of course, is called Sega Genesis. The reason it was called Sega Genesis over here and in other areas of North America was for some sort of trademark issue for the term Mega Drive. But of course, the PAL version more closely resembles the US one. That's why the 16-bit text is the same instead of giant. And the reset button is white. And here, Japanese back of the console. Extension port, AV and power. North American extension port, RF, AV and power. And then PAL extension port, RF, AV and power, except without a channel selection switch because they don't do that in PAL. Let's just take a look at the bottom of all of these. Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, and Japanese Mega Drive. And then of course there's this stuff on the US system as well. I would imagine that this sticker here is for whatever distributor distributed the console in Sweden, where I bought this from. Because typically in PAL versions of consoles, they have stickers of distributors on the back. Alright, we're gonna be plugging this in. Stay tuned. Alright, so I got the system all plugged in with my US cables. Got a controller here, PAL controller. And this is the TV that I was talking about that supposedly supports 50 Hz signals, so I hope it works on here. And I actually have these 3 games here. I got these a couple weeks ago while ordering this. Here's the PAL copy of Sonic 1. It's a different cover than the US one. See, looks pretty cool with all the designs in the background of Robotnik, and there's Flicky right there. And then I have this one here. It's Micro Machines 2 Turbo Tournament. This one is pretty cool because look at this cartridge. It has 2 controller ports on the top, so you can play 4 players on it. It's a racing game. And then I have Mystic Defender. Never played this one before, but the screenshots look pretty cool. Sadly, this one doesn't have a label on it, but it's fine because I got these all really cheap from a US seller, actually. So first we're gonna try Sonic 1, which it even came with the manual, as you can see here. The manual shape is a bit different than the US manuals. Alright, so fingers crossed that this works. Let's turn it on and test it out. Kinda scared. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it works. Yeah, as you can see, it's running slower. Yeah, this is unfortunately how Europeans grew up with Sonic and a lot of other games. They played it slower, but of course this was before internet, so they didn't really know any better. Although there was an import scene back then, but it was rare due to the internet not being commonplace. I would like to show captured footage of it, but because my DVD recorders are 60 Hz, I don't think it's gonna work, but I'm gonna try it. but being that this TV supports 50 hertz, and it seems to be showing up fine. It's a good sign in my book. And also, I don't know if you noticed when I turned it on, but the TMSS screen didn't show up, which that means I have a really rare Model 1 PAL Mega Drive, because as far as I know, they didn't get a lot of the non-TMSS versions. Now, if you don't know, the TMSS is that copyright screen that a lot of Sega Genesis consoles usually show that says produced by Sega Enterprises Ltd. But yeah, I'm gonna try playing it with one hand. See if this controller works. Yeah, this playing with one hand, so I suck. Gonna see if I can beat the level. Yeah, it just feels so sluggish. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna beat this with one hand. Let me just let it rotate. No. Alright, so I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna try a different game. I just have the AV cable with mono sound plugged into the back, so the volume doesn't do anything unless I plug my aux connection to the front. But yeah, I'm glad that I got this working, and it's nice that I have a rarer Model 1 Mega Drive. Because it's rare that I see a non-TMSS PAL system, as far as I know from YouTube videos I've watched. Alright, so I got this plugged into one of my DVD recorders. Gonna show you how this works. See, unfortunately, this DVD recorder doesn't take PAL signals, so that's why it looks like this. PAL and NTSC signals have different color spectrums, so, you know, that's partly why they're incompatible. This only does 60 hertz. Both of my DVD recorders actually only do 60 hertz. Same with the TV itself. Alright, and now we have the Mega Drive family. Here we have 3 Model 1s. Here's a Japanese one with Japanese copy of Sonic 1. US one with a US copy of Sonic 1, and the PAL version with a PAL copy of Sonic 1. Yeah, Sonic 1 is an easy game to get. Who doesn't own at least 3 copies of it? But yeah, just gonna turn them on and show the difference between PAL and NTSC real quick, if for those who don't already know. Alright, now I got the US one all set up. See, this is the TMSS screen. Alright. By the way, the PAL and US versions of Sonic 1 is basically just the same ROM. All they just did was use a different cover. Alright, got the Japanese one all plugged in. Alright. Also NTSC, but not sure if you guys noticed, but the clouds actually move on this version. The Japanese one was actually released later than the game released in US and Europe. There was also some bug fixes, and also in later levels like Labyrinth Zone, the water actually has a ripple effect, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just wanted to do a quick demonstration of PAL versus NTSC right now. And real quick, just doing a comparison of the different versions of Sonic the Hedgehog in different regions, as I have a complete in-box copy for the Japanese version, complete in-box for the US version, not for resale, because this is the pack-in version, and then complete in-box for PAL. So this is the only game I own all 3 variants of. Anyway, see the back. Yep. Here's the cartridge and manual. US cartridge and manual, and also some poster and some other stuff inside. Not gonna open that yet. PAL, which I already showed earlier, but I'll show it again. Here's the manual, which is in a horizontal way. It's because the manuals for most PAL Mega Drive games have different languages to represent the various languages spoken in European countries. And as a bonus, here's this Canadian copy of Sonic 1. It's basically just the PAL version, but it says Sega Genesis on it because that's what it's called in Canada. For whatever reason, Canada got a lot of PAL cover art for their games. I believe it's because Canada not only speaks English primarily, but they have French-speaking nations there too, so it probably just makes sense to reprint manuals that already have different languages in it, such as French, than it is just to have English only. Because for the most part, most Canadian versions of games for many different consoles just use the US box art. But yeah, here I have this Canadian one, but I don't have the box to it, but it would look like this, except saying Sega Genesis at the top. Got this from John's 01 a while ago in a trade. So yeah, I'm gonna try another game. Alright, so I have Micro Machines plugged in. I got the two PAL controllers plugged into the console, and then I have a US controller and a Japanese controller plugged into the cartridge. It's called a J-cart, that's the term for it, which I find it a pretty unique idea. They have the controller ports on the cartridge instead of needing to buy a multi-tap. So in case I ever want to play a 4-player game on Genesis or Mega Drive, and I have 3 other people willing to play that, then I'm all set. It's not working. Hold on. Published by Codemasters. Just testing all the controllers, and they all seem to work. I think I have, this is the one that's in player 1. It froze. Hold on, I think I selected 1-player mode. 4 players. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick random characters. No. I'm just picking random characters. Yeah, just testing it out and making sure it works. Alright, so all 4 controllers are working. I actually have more PAL games that I've gotten at different times. Alright, so I got a stack of games here. See, this is just a US copy of Sonic 2, which I'll show it for a reason we'll get into in a moment. But then I also have my PAL Mega Drive game collection that I already had for a while. See, this is Mega Games 6 Volume 3, which the Mega Games series, while these collections themselves were exclusive to PAL regions and were pack-ins, the games themselves were released here, and we did get a version of one of these collections as a 6-pack. Then there's also Classic Collection, which is also sometimes known as Mega Games 4-in-1, which is actually a rare one, but I found it at a really good price, especially for the games that it comes with. Gunstar Heroes especially is an expensive one alone, so I wanted that. Then I have Kid Chameleon, which got it from a US seller. I don't know how he had this version of the game, so I just got it. Same game as the US game. Didn't own it before, but it's fun. Here's Monster Lair. This one was released in Japan, but never released in the US. It's a fun game, though. TurboGrafx version is better, but this one is still fun. And then I have Samurai Showdown, which this one is actually one of the few where they optimized it for 50 hertz. Like, I can't get it to run in my US console. Not only does it show a lockout screen, but due to the higher resolution in this one being utilized with the PAL higher resolutions, it just shows a rolling picture when I look at it on my US TVs, on the US console, of course. So, and I had this for a while, but never been able to play it for that reason. So yeah, now if I want to play Samurai Showdown, I could play it on this. Alright, so first I'm gonna test the US Sonic 2. PAL version cover of it looks pretty much the same, except it says Sega Mega Drive on it and the end label is a bit different. But all in all, it's actually the same ROM all across the board. They just use the one ROM that auto detects which version of console you have. As you can see, the music in this, when you're playing Sonic 2 on a PAL system or a PAL copy of Sonic 2, it sounds normal. This is one of the titles where they fixed the music, but they didn't fix the gameplay, so it's still slow. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that as an example of a game where they sort of optimized it, but not fully. I'm gonna put in Samurai Showdown to show you the utilizing higher resolution. Yep, so now I actually get to use this game. Found it from a local seller. Not sure how he had it. But if you look at it, you can kind of see that the game covers almost more of the screen than the other games that I've shown. It's because it's using the extra PAL resolution that they have. just picked a random character. Yeah, I'm trying to play this with one hand. Oh wow. Oh well, at least I tried. See, let me try again. I wish I could have did actual video capture of this, but I don't think I can. Yeah, I lost. Alright, so got the power base converter here. Allows you to play Master System games. And of course, as some of you guys might know, the Master System was a far more successful console in PAL regions than it was here. They got a lot more exclusive games on it too. Well, although a number of them were released on the Game Gear here, but they play better on the TV. I got, let me show you Shinobi here. I already opened the box, but let's try this. It's one of my favorite games on the Master System. It's a hard game, but it's still fun. Alright, so I got it cleaned up a bit. See, this is just what a Sega Master System game would look like on a PAL console. Hold on a sec. See, it's running slower. Alright, and that works. Alright, so now I'm just gonna show a game that was developed in Europe, Zool. It's a pretty fun game. So, this one, when you play it on a NTSC console, it runs too fast, the music runs too fast. But here it's running normal. And this was only released in Europe on the Master System, by the way. It did get a Game Gear release and a Genesis release, and also on the Super Nintendo and Game Boy as well. If you want to try this game out. Of course, I'm playing with one hand. But yeah, overall, I just wanted to show you guys this PAL Mega Drive that I bought, just so I can test it out on this 50 hertz multi-region TV, which I had this TV for about like 13 years, and only just now I discovered that it supports 50 hertz, so I decided to get a PAL system. This was pretty affordable, and see if it would actually work. And now that I know that it does, I could maybe import other PAL consoles in the future. I do kind of wish I could have did video capture from this, but none of my capturing methods have 50 hertz options, but that's fine. I can probably get like some sort of AV capture device and try doing 50 hertz stuff that way. But yeah, I'm overall glad that I got this, and it just works seamlessly with this TV. I actually almost thought I wasn't even gonna get this, because I had ordered it about a month ago at the time of this recording. End of February I ordered it, but apparently it got shipped back to the seller because he forgot to fill out a customs form, so he had to reship it again with the customs form, and it didn't have tracking because I guess he had to pay extra for it, and it was pretty expensive. So like I was a bit worried and almost thought that this was just never gonna come, but I'm glad it did. As always, more to come. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. Bye now.